Welcome back to the Product Marketing Festival. I hope you're enjoying the content so far. I want to thank you all for joining us and send out an extra special thank you to all our sponsors, partners, speakers and participants who together have made this event possible. Their sessions are bursting with insights to help you level up. But remember, the learning doesn't stop here. If you aren't already, you can become a PMA member and benefit from unlimited access to all this week's content, along with a whole host of other exclusive content and tools. What's more, why not check out Product Marketing Core, our industry-renowned certification? Join hundreds of your PMM peers and get certified today. And remember, have your questions at the ready. Simply post them in the comments section and get awesome advice from our experts. We've got plenty more magic up our sleeves that's guaranteed to blow you away. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the talks.
Hey folks, Evan here, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the intersection of the creator economy and B2B marketing. But first, many thanks to the Product Marketing Alliance for including me in this. I've always loved working with the community, and I'm excited this festival is back in full swing. Before we jump in, I'd like to share a quick story of how I encountered the creator economy for the first time in the software space. And as a bit of background, I'd like to think of myself as a creator in almost everything I've done in my career, just without all of the fans. I've always derived the most energy from making things, from products, process, to ways of working, to building out teams. As a product manager at Accenture, I created and launched software tools for Fortune 500 companies. As an early leader in Box's implementation team, I built out teams, methodologies, and best practices that help customers find deep value in the product and transform their businesses. And at Coda, which is a new all-in-one doc for teams, I've been running our marketing partnerships and solutions teams, creating different approaches on how we grow our audience. But more critical to this story, I spend most of my time at home creating as well as a musician and aspiring producer. I've been making music my entire life. In college, I started a locally successful band that recorded a few EPs and toured the country, which I promise is less glamorous than it actually sounds. We played to a lot of empty rooms. But as I was leaving college, I had this choice: make music my career or find a new one. And while I ultimately chose the latter, I knew I wanted to keep music as a staple of my life. And so I took the profits of that work and built my first home studio, which you can see in the pics to the right, where I was based in San Francisco, and then bottom left, my apartment now. And one of the first major choices any aspiring producer needs to make is, what is their technology stack? And just like our favorite buyer persona as marketers that we all love to talk about, I got to step into this role for the first time and decide on one of my first big major investments, which is the centerpiece of any studio, known as a digital audio workstation. Now, a digital audio workstation, or DAW as it's called, like any development environment for engineers or launch calendar for PMMs, it's the place where all the magic happens. It's where you record, mix, master, and compose your music. And just like any major tech purchase in the business world, there are a ton of options and even more features to figure out. And so, like any good tech buyer on his journey to find the right solution, I might have started where you expect. I might have Googled best DAWs for the year. I might have scoured the internet for the best articles that showed all the pros and cons. I might have found different pieces that show me in 5 stars how good this piece of technology is. And I may have asked some friends in the process as well. And with my comparison spreadsheet filled out and all the pricing lined up, I might have landed on a solution that I felt would get the job done. And this feels like all standard buyer's journey stuff. But what actually happened is a little bit more organic and unexpected. It actually started for me on YouTube. And see, at the time, I was a big fan of scrolling through YouTube, watching videos every day. And I scrolled past one by deadmau5, an electronic music producer that I've recently seen live, and it showed him working in his studio. At first, it seemed a little bit uncut and raw. It was a live stream that he had posted. It was very, very long. But as I started to watch, I found it hard to stop. Aside from the general entertainment value of him turning knobs and flipping switches to produce any number of crazy sounds and tracks, I actually felt like I was also learning something. Not only was I learning his creative process, but I was also learning about his tools and his workflow. I watched him as he deftly programmed beats and synth patterns and melodies into his DAW Ableton Live, and I was instantly hooked. I bought a copy of that software on the spot, and I've been using it for the last decade to this day. Now, on its surface, this might seem like a standard influencer marketing example. A reputable producer with a large following is paid to share a product to his audience. But this case was neither of those things. Yes, deadmau5 at the time was a reputable producer, but he was only just starting to build his following in YouTube. And Ableton didn't pay him to promote. Ableton was just his preferred tool. And to me, this is like striking marketing gold. The creator using your product who's building an audience is giving you free marketing the most genuine way. And to me, this taps into a whole different type of referral traffic. This isn't just referrals and recommendations through people you know, the recommendations through people you aspire to be. And while we've seen a ton of traction in the industry around the creator economy generally, which are the successful platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Substack, Clubhouse, and others, my belief is that there are order of magnitude more creators that will show up in the business world as well. People who have unique perspectives on how we work, how to build great teams, and how to achieve business outcomes. And they're all around us. And at Coda, we call these people makers. Our product was built to empower them to create tools that best reflect their unique ways of working. But makers also use a huge variety of tools to get work done, and they very likely shape their perspective on work in general through those tools. So what if we could help them channel this perspective in the earliest stages of them entering the creator economy? At Coda, in part because our product is tied closely to this space, we've thought a lot about this dynamic, but in my view, the lessons we've learned apply to any B2B software company looking for ways to grow their audience through their users. And in this talk, I'll share a bit of context and some tips on how to engage this audience at its earliest stages so you might be able to better ride the growing creator economy wave. So like any good PMM, let's start with the target audience. Who are the best representatives of the creator economy in our user base, and what motivates and drives them? And for this, I started with this piece written by investor Li Jin, who talks about the growth of the creator economy, what she actually calls the passion economy, which is a superset, which is about people creating businesses based on their individuality. From publishers leaving traditional media companies to found newsletters to people playing video games on Twitch. She shares details on the number of options that have been growing over time for different creators to share their craft. She also highlights a set of attributes for the new passion economy platforms, namely that they're accessible to everyone, not only business and professionals. They view individuality as a feature, not a bug. They focus on digital products, virtual services. They provide holistic tools to grow and operate a business, and they open new doors to new forms of work. As you look through this list, you can also see what the users of these products value: individuality, accessibility, and a holistic set of tools. And it's probably hard to parse this in the abstract. So let's take a look at a real example. Let's take creator Ali Abdaal. Now, Ali started his YouTube channel in 2007, where he was studying at Cambridge to become a doctor. And through his channel, he sought to, quote, create content that helps people lead happier, healthier, and more productive lives. Now, in the beginning, he simply shared tips for things he encountered in his daily life at university: how to study effectively, how to take great notes while reading, how to achieve balance. And since 2007, he's grown his audience on YouTube to over 1.7 million subscribers, which is crazy. But what's even more interesting is if you look behind the scenes at where he is today, he's been able to turn this into a bona fide multi-channel business. In recent videos, he's shared his expansive list of channels and revenue streams, both passive and active. And you can see at the bottom here, everything from his YouTube channel to podcasts to selling a course on Skillshare to even launching a website or an app related to the things he's learned. And the key here is that through all of these channels, he is constantly advertising the products he uses and loves just by virtue of showing off his process and his knowledge. And initially, no sponsor dollars at all. Now, unlike the deadmau5 example, where his career was defined by his musical creativity and he used YouTube as a channel to amplify that, Ali's growth as a creator was defined by the tools and the process that he used and his work life. Now, the Ali of today is obviously an attractive target to build a relationship with if you are one of the folks who has a product that he uses, given his current following. But how might we have found him and enabled him earlier in his journey when he was just starting, before he was bombarded with sponsor requests and ad dollars? Now, to start, we looked at our most engaged users, and not only folks who are showing up in our daily active user charts, but really folks who have patterns of making and building systems and tools in our products. Now, it's a little bit easier for us since we've actually codified this as our primary audience as we grow Coda, but you might find this in certain archetypes or certain types of use cases of your product, folks who are in systems architecture roles, or folks who sit between a bunch of different teams who are responsible for coordination. And these folks will not only show patterns of using your product, but also building things around it that might indicate that they are developing a broader point of view or perspective inside of their company. We've also built a strong relationship with customer success to make sure that we're surfacing the conversations that they're having day to day with users in the way that we prioritize and think about this target audience. The second thing we'll do is find users with a growing audience. And this is a little bit harder to do, but some of the current data enrichment tools like Clearbit and otherwise help you identify folks who do have audiences in different social channels. But even looking through social channels directly, not just Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, but also looking in places like Reddit and other forums where they may be participating. Even looking through your active community channels, you'll find folks who are starting to develop their own voice inside of those communities, folks who would benefit from you helping cultivate that relationship and that journey for them. And the last bit is aligning your story and positioning to this target audience. And this can be done by obviously doing some of the standard things you would do, which is interview users, understand their motivations, their pain points, the things that they want to achieve, but also figuring out how your story broadly and your vision as a company supports their vision of growing their audience and their personal brands. At Coda, it's clear that we believe in this maker generation, and we want to make sure we're amplifying the voices of all makers through the work that they do with our product. And that creates a great basis for us to support their growth in a way that's very genuine and doesn't feel like it's just a marketing gimmick or strategy. So once we've identified our users, the second bit is figuring out what is the pattern through which we engage with them and how do we help them along this journey. Now, in general, based on the things we know about what our target audience cares about, as well as how to drive resonance for potential buyers of our product, there are three dimensions I think are worth considering. The first is credibility. Ultimately, people who buy products based on social proof will need to see it credible in terms of the outcomes it provides, but also feel genuine in terms of the way that they see that social proof. The second is individuality, which in the piece mentioned earlier is incredibly important for creators and makers to showcase their work and not feel like they're being folded into an underlying brand or broader story. And the third is shareability, which is both how shareable it is for the creator themselves and how likely they are to get it in front of their audiences, but also does it travel well across platforms, knowing earlier that many platforms will be used to share content that is created by these folks. And so if we take a look back at the classic tools that are in the marketer's tool chest, let's look at a few of them and see how they stack up against these. We'll start with the classic case study, which everybody should know and love. It's got a punchy headline, it has a logo, it has a bunch of metrics of success, which is really great for tops-down sales in places where you need a quick answer on, is this tool being used by reputable companies, but is very impersonal and feels obviously self-serving when you dig into it. It doesn't really showcase all the details of the workflow that the individuals who are behind these results put into this solution with the product. And it can often feel a bit impersonal in the way that it's delivered. If we take a slightly different tack, which is referral programs, these are really effective given their performance-based incentives, either giving credits to your product or actually delivering cash to people based on how many folks they sign up. It's very effective at starting to generate some traffic through a direct network effect. But it is also still very impersonal. Oftentimes people just post the links straight out of their referral inbox into things like Twitter. It doesn't feel tied to a solution. It has very low credibility, generally beyond the person who shared the message. And then we have community platforms, which we can learn a ton from in terms of how creators might engage and share information. There's typically strong commitment to products that folks use in these communities and strong network effects. They're really genuine conversations that take place in these areas. And so the question becomes, how do we take the best of these three areas, highly credible case studies, highly shareable referral networks, and the individuality that's expressed in community, and bring them together into one solution, one pattern that we can use to enable our early creators to share their work through your product. At Coda, we built out a doc gallery for this exact purpose. The doc gallery is a place where both Coda employees and makers in our user base alike can submit docs that they've built, solutions on the platform, and share their perspective through our platform, but also share it off of our platform as well. And a couple of critical elements of this. First, we made it very easy for folks to take the content that they're working with every day and turn it into a published asset. We generated a feature that allows that to happen. The second is we created an easy sharing mechanism so that when it is published, not only does it show up in this gallery, but they can also generate links to it. They can create custom URLs, things that make it easy for them to share it around the variety of channels that they may be engaging with. And one of the third more important things is we created a space not just for them to see the content aligned with other content, but also see their own personal profile, like you might see in a platform like YouTube or otherwise, where all of their work accumulates and how they engage with other community members' work accumulates as well. And this just creates a destination that we feel is really important for creators who are trying to build out a strategy that ultimately will revolve around many different channels as they're trying to get the word out about their work. And we've seen lots of companies follow suit in our space. Companies like Miro and Figma have launched similar types of galleries where you can both feature content in a single destination, but also make it easily accessible through a bunch of different platforms, showcasing the individuality of your users and the things that they can build. And so once you have kind of this combination of credibility, personality, and shareability, how do you build a supporting motion that enables this group to participate actively in this community and this economy? At Coda, we've built a full end-to-end motion to support this growing creator community. And we started with how people actually structured their docs to be the most accessible, the most delightful for those who consume their content. And so setting standards for how people write great docs and share them with others has been a really important facet of our motion here. The second is we lead by example. We take all of those templates and we apply them to our own interests and promote those through a variety of channels as well. I spend a lot of time in Coda every day, but I still manage to find time to also create use cases that are maybe a little bit more playful or a little bit more personal than the standard work environment, like this doc here that tracks our coffee consumption throughout the day, or a Game of Thrones doc tracking the last season and the progress of all of the main characters. And so once we've established a pattern and we've shared it through our own voice and given creators something to pattern match off of, we also staffed a team to support the growth of this community. We call it maker marketing internally, but it's a combination of folks who support developing the solutions with our makers, both designing them with them and helping them along the journey of creating the best possible solution, as well as helping them write the best content that supports that solution. And we have a promotion team that helps our makers promote their content and build assets that support any channel that they're most interested in engaging with. And so through building this motion, through developing the patterns through which makers can engage with our product, and by deeply understanding their needs, their desires, their motivations, we've been able to engage this new group of folks who are really establishing themselves as thought leaders and making celebrities of them in a way that you might only otherwise see inside of TikTok or Facebook or other social channels. So in closing, I hope you've learned a little bit about the acceleration of the creator economy that I'm seeing every day. that grows from within companies your product likely already serves, which is a huge opportunity, both from a vision perspective and aligning your vision to the way that your users engage with your product, but also supporting this referral growth opportunity that exists just through the creator economy growing and sharing work through multiple channels. I think this group will pitch products, share best practices, and be a strong driver of growth for businesses that support their journey. And so I hope these tips have been helpful as starting points. In case you're interested in learning more, feel free to send me an email at evan@coda.io. And I really appreciate you joining the session today. Thanks and have a great rest of your week.